Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. For this video today, I wanted to talk to you about cycles and the narcissistic cycles, so let's jump in. So a lot of you out there may think at some point the narcissist is going to meet some forever person and they're going to settle down and they're going to quit cycling. But the narcissist never quits cycling. They will cycle until they kick the bucket. Till they leave from here, they're going to be cycling. And a lot of times their cycling will be the same. You can almost predict their cycles as if they are a robot, because what they're feeding inside of them is dark energy, and the dark energy has needs and wants. They didn't pick their or choose their cycle. The dark energy chose the cycle of the host based on the dark energy's lusts to keep them satisfied. If they have the ability to increase that cycling because they are able to promote themselves more, they will. But a lot of times it will cause them to have a lot more negative from too much early cycling. So it won't occur. That's why you'll find people that are high profile, they can cycle quicker and their cycles are faster because the dark energy they are feeding knows that they have the ability to, because their reach is greater, their money is longer. My money long. So they can cause that host to cycle that way. To cycle too quickly, people will get tired of them. They got to keep the people in the loop or in the pipeline, so their cycles will be only but so far. It's almost like their manager is the dark energy and it wants to get fed continually. You can look on a calendar if you've done many cycles with the same individual, and you could see how long they've lasted, just like a woman would on her menstrual cycle. And you will be able to know 3 months or 4 months or whatever, if you leave it up to them, when they detach from you, discard you. And if you've always left it up to them, it'll always be the same. Like if it was 3 or 4 months, you could put it on your future calendar if you're going to continue to cycle with them, which I don't suggest, but it's not the case. I think in your mind early on in understanding narcissism, you think they're going to find somebody and they're going to settle down with them, but that's not the case. If they find somebody, for instance, with a lot of commodity, a lot of money or something, then they'll just do things behind their back. They'll just be more sneaky with who they cheat with and how they run their cycles, but their cycles will be the same. All cycles are very similar. I mean, they all do the same thing. They love, bomb, devalue, discard, and hoover, but they can only have so many sources of supply before it starts to be too much. They want to keep their pipeline full, and they want it with the highest forms of supply they can find, but they don't have the ability to have too many, because once you get past 4 or 5 people you cycle with, you don't have enough time in the day and you can't juggle all of that. So you're going to find if a narcissist ever stops seeing supply, it's because they increase the values of their supply sources, meaning they leveled up on supply sources. They had low-hanging fruit, 2 of them, and 2 of them were higher level unawoke empaths that supplied their fuel. so much better ones they kind of chose to see versus they were forced to see to get fuel because they didn't have anybody. Then they may stop seeing some and just make them overnight stays or just calling them on the phone and resort to that as their supply in the future with them because they don't get rid of anybody. They hoard people. So that's why it's really hard to break away from a narcissist. And you'll find that when you do, they will continue to cause trouble in your life. In the very beginning, they think that you're going to come back because you've done several cycles. But then when you don't, they play it off like they still know you will. It's different, but they still know you will. But then after you get about a year, and they'll start having to come to you. They try to have everybody come to them. And if they get desperate for supply, the first thing they'll do is something very small, minute, like send a text, how you doing? I'm checking up on you, or something like that if you don't have them blocked. If you have them blocked, what they'll do is they'll send a close friend in. They'll just talk about you so much. That close friend will say something like, oh, you should go talk to him. I can't do that. And then they'll end up saying, will you go talk to him for me, or something like that. So they'll have their friend come see you and start trying to bring up the conversation of you and whoever that narcissist is, trying to get you guys back together. The same way that they defame your name, remember, they do it behind your back. They throw rocks and then they duck for cover because they're cowards. Well, if they really feel you're getting away and they want to get you back, they'll have one of their flying monkeys come towards you first, or a quick text, because they got to keep power and control. They're losing it if they are to come see you and try to get you back. They try to hold on to the power and control and go at it through somebody. They like to go by proxy. They like to go through flying monkeys to do anything. Even when they're defaming your name, they're doing it behind your back, and you hear about it probably from other people later on. The cycles don't change. Sometimes they can speed up or slow down depending on if somebody discarded them, then they're forced to change it up and have to run to a backup supply, a back burner, a side piece or something, because it's shaken up their supply cycle. So they may be forced to go to somebody earlier. And if you have, like, say they met a new supply, then that may change how the supply rotation changes, because they got to fit that person in, and somebody may be on their way out. So if they can get, what I found is once a narcissist starts going at it for a while, I mean, let's say several years, they get into their 20s, they're going to be cycling every 3 months because they're so toxic. It's going to be like 3 months or less. But whatever is based on the spectrum of evil that they are, it's going to be something like that because they don't have the fruits of the spirit. So if they can't love you, they can only take a relationship so far, and it can only be surface. And that's why sometimes, like, the borderline can go a lot further with a relationship, because they say they feel a little, they do feel empathy a little bit, but narcissists don't seem to feel it at all. But if you don't feel empathy, how do you keep a relationship going? Because you're always sucking. And when you are with a person for more than 3 months, you got to start showing those fruits on a level that it makes more sense. And the narcissist can't do that. They will stay longer in a case where they're playing the long con, they call it, where if you have money and they want to get that money from you, or you're rich, then they'll stay with you longer, and they'll be willing to sacrifice whatever it takes so that they can get that con completed. But like I said, they're going to just have to be more sinister with their supply sources because they still want to cycle and they're still going to try and do it. The other situation where a narcissist could stay longer is if they have you entrapped, like a primary source supply. Like if they have you trapped, you have no boundaries, and you're in fear that they're going to abuse you financially. It could be physically, or you could be abused through witchcraft or mentally and emotionally to the level to where you're so in fear you're going to have no boundaries and let them do whatever they want. Don't ask, don't tell. They're also going to, like, if they have loans with you and children and houses and open accounts, then they're going to threaten you with that. They're not going to divorce you very easily. They always give you a hard fight with that. They're going to want everything. If you have children, it's going to be a constant battle with child support or seeing them. They're not ever willing to come to a compromise because they like the supply they get, and they keep you on the hook. And that's why they like to get sources of supply caught up in debt with them so they can't leave, and they can use it as a form of somewhat blackmail. And if they have anything on you, like if they know you've done something bad, for instance, they will blackmail you with it. Or something you're ashamed of that you don't want to get out, they'll blackmail you. That's what they do with political people that are truthful. They'll blackmail them, or they'll prostitute themselves, or see them behind, for instance, that politician or something, or that judge might be married, and they'll have an affair with them, but the affair is only to blackmail them. Some narcissists, that's what they make a living off of, just blackmailing people. Or if they had a kid with somebody and they want to keep the kid under cover, they'll have like two families. They do crazy stuff. Or if they are bi, but they're promoting themselves as straight, then they'll blackmail somebody over that. These are usually, if they're not pre-planned, this is just the way their thinking always will resort to. It's how can I keep these sources of supply, and how can I do the least amount of work, and how can I get the most amount of either financial gain or some sort of gain out of it, or use their title to empower them. So if you were a judge, then you have a legal title that does something for you. So they may find a way to blackmail that individual so they could say, oh, I have a judge wrapped around my finger, or a lawyer, or anybody. Could be somebody that has a Fortune 500 company or something. And this is what happens. And this is how sometimes truthful people will get corrupted, because they don't want maybe their relations to get out, because maybe they've been polyamorous, and the narcissist will pick up on this stuff and they will use it against you if they can. But it always leads to a, a black hole, and it ends up getting caught up later. So your best is to just tell the truth. I mean, you got to be who you are. And to heal, you got to accept who you have been. And if you're ashamed of something, then maybe it's because it's not good for you. That's kind of like your intuition telling you. And sometimes it's fear. So it could just be fear. And either one of those, when you're the truth, then you just accept whatever you are. And if it's fear, well, then you'll get over that fear. If it's your intuition telling you that that's not the right thing to do, then deal with it now is better than dealing with it later, because the narcissist is never going to let it go. And you don't want to get caught up in all kind of corruption and then have to deal with it later, because then you'll have corruption charges, you'll lose your job, and all this stuff. So any way you look at it, the truth is always going to be better than somehow staving it off. And that's what is, it's a form of ensnarement is what it is. That's what the enemy is very good at doing. That's why when you wake up to this stuff, you want to just live by your truth. And you got to accept whatever you have to do, however raw it is. And it can suck. Sometimes it can really suck because there are fears. I think for truthful people, they have to deal with fears more than the dealing with like corruption and blackmail. But even truthful people can get caught up in that, because when you can make your days the same versus dealing with a big issue that you don't want to deal with, you think that, you can stave it off and maybe it'll go away at some point. But with a narcissist, it never does. They're always going to put their foot on your neck until you deal with it. But they like to get the highest forms of supply they can get. People with good looks, people with money, people with empathy, and people with titles. People that tell the truth because it makes them look like they tell the truth. People with their emotions that are high so they can steal them off of you, steal them from you, especially if you are an empath. People that know a lot of influential, if people that supply sources that rub shoulders with influential people, those are enticing to them too, because they want to be with you if you're influential, and then get to know your influential friends, so then they'll date all of them, and then they'll make you look bad, especially if they have some sort of infection. They'll give it to all these people. Or if they catch an infection after you leave them, they'll give it to all these people, and then they'll say something like, you did it, you gave it to them or something, and you have nothing. So they do a lot of crazy stuff. They'll do anything evil, man. There's no good in them. When you don't have love, joy, peace, goodness, faithfulness, you don't have good self-control, I mean, you're just out there in that lust state that I talk about versus love. If you have love, then you're going to be coming from the 9 fruits. It may be rickety. I mean, people that can feel the 9 fruits doesn't mean they're all really good, truthful individuals, but they have some truth to them. They care. to some degree. Now, when you heal, you want to increase your fruit of the Spirit, the depth of it. If you have a little love, you want to increase that love. You just want to choose who you give it to. If you have faithfulness a little bit, you want to increase that. Be faithful to be trusted. These are things that you will increase your depth of living on, the 9 fruits, and then your lusts will diminish. You see? So where you diminish your lust, or if you have like a substance abuse problem, you diminish that, you're going to increase somewhere in the love area off the love sector. The 9 fruits. It's going to, every action has a reaction and it's equal. So it's going to be, as this diminishes, this will increase. And this is the side you want to be on, the right side, the love, joy, peace. These are the wholesome things that never steer you wrong. The lust side is things can go wrong any day, because this is living in the streets, and this is living in truth. The lie, the truth. The lie, the truth, right? Lust, love. Living from lust is to want things and to be greedy for things and envious of things and hating people, wanting to get them back, sabotaging them, manipulating them, bullying them, putting them in fear so you can live off the adrenaline of them fearing you. But it's a fight or flight scenario. So you're talking about, you're not humanity anymore when you're living in that type of scenario. You're living like an animal. And when you live and come from the love sector, you're willing to give, to help people. You're willing to have some knowledge that's worthy to help people. You have good understanding of things because you're thinking clearly. People can trust you. They will come to you for knowledge and wisdom. You will be looked at as being wise, not a player. You'll be looked at as being humble, not pompous, froward, or arrogant. You won't be envious of others. You'll be their biggest cheerleader. Again, you're going to change all of your friends and the people that you associate with. So when this change takes place from lust to love, you're going to be dropping these lust people that you were hanging out with, these people of the streets, the lie. You can't be with both. It talks about that in the Word, about being lukewarm and he will spew you out of his mouth. Because when you're lukewarm, you tend to not be trusted. You're not faithful. And you tend to do more of this lust thing than you do the love thing. You're more easily persuaded this way. And that's why you don't want to be with lukewarm people, in a sense, when it comes to these things, because when you're like, let's say you're in a love state, but you still have lukewarm people that you hang out with that do some of these things, what's going to happen is when the lust or the lie people can't get to you, when the narcissist can't get to you, the enemy will send the lukewarm people, and he'll have the devil jump in and out of them, and they'll be willing to be used as like a familiar spirit type to get information to give to these people. They play both sides. That's why it's always the company you keep. And when you are truth, you can't be with lukewarm or the lie. You just want to be with truth tellers. But you can't look to titles because titles are all mixed up. People can buy titles. People that grew up in generations of being in counselship or judges or lawyers, they learn the business from being around these lying people, and they'll buy the title. Some people pay for the title. Some people don't even get degrees, they pay for them. Especially people in high affluency. So they could on paper look like they're some person that holds status or title, but they just came for money and they paid for it. They didn't live the life to get there. They didn't do the footwork. They didn't come up out the mud. They stole it or they bought it. But yeah, they always do the cycling thing. If it's every 3 months, it'll be every 3 months for whoever they're with. And they'll come back around because that's the time it takes for them to love bomb, devalue, and discard. And then they'll go with somebody else and then somebody else and then come back to you. It just depends on what they have in their pipeline, but generally their pipeline is something that they're comfortable with doing. And then it never changes. Unless when they get older, it may change because they don't have the ability to get maybe 3 more forms of supply. So they'll be forced to be with one or two, or two. It's never just one. But then they'll be more crabby. That's why you see cranky old people being together, but they don't want to be together. It's because they can't get anybody else. They have to somewhat settle for something at some point as they get older. But they never learned anything, and they never will, even in their old age. And they'll be afraid to pass away from here. Those are the people that are afraid to pass away because they never think they're going to pass away. They live like they're a god or something in their youth. They may have many years left. You don't know. We're not promised tomorrow. Anything could happen. But these people will live that way and feel like there's nothing to gain. And they live from a state of the shortcut. It's always a shortcut method. The lie, the manipulate. How can I get there faster? How can I elevate quicker? It's always by theft and manipulation, lying, cheating, and stealing, destroying, just to get what they want. But it doesn't ever work. But it wrecks a lot of people. And people aren't really in the business of healing these days. They're really not. A lot of people don't want to put the work in. They're not passionate about it, and there's not really a good plan out there for them to go by. And that's part of the problem. There's not a lot of people out there passionate about making change. But I do believe that there is a somewhat of a format that you can follow if you have passion. People have to find the passion to want to change. But we're talking about people that have been hurt, not narcissists. Narcissists don't change. So, like I said, I believe we made our choice of who we were going to be between God creating us and us being put in our mother's womb. And you can get jaded by your mind, will, and emotions. But it should never change the innate true you, your childlike self, your innate spirit that you were born with. Shouldn't change. You can look changed if you decide to block it out, but not sacrifice it, and you use your mind, will, and emotions only and live through a lustful state of mind wearing a mask. You can look like a narcissist and not be one, and continue to live in a hurt mentality. And then at some point, you can have something major happen in your life, and you can start to look for healing, and you will begin to look more to your intuition, your inside voice, and go back to God and reignite or rebirth your life. But the narcissist is somebody who's never interested in doing that. And if they are, what they do is they don't have an innate true self. They sacrifice it. So all they have is their mind, will, and emotions, and they think it's their innate true self, but it's not. Those are tools for your innate true self. They have no inside voice, they don't have any intuition either. They don't have a whole lot of creativity, so they steal it. But when they change jobs. They may get a better position. They may go to school and get another degree. They may wear different clothes. They may change the way their body looks, but they don't change their ethics, values, and morals. They fake it. So thank you for watching. Until next time, soldier up. Peace, we out.